Welcome to the Tiger Interview Series.
In this episode, I have DJ DeWees, our Southern Indiana director, and also our second head coach of our national team. This is the second time that we sent a national team down to Fort Myers, Florida. We do a deep dive into the weekend. We played really well. We're going to talk about how to get recruited, what the national team is all about, the process, as well as what to expect if you do get chosen to play for one of these teams. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Tiger Interview Series. As promised, I have the man, the myth, the legend, DJ DeWees in the house. Actually, not in the house. He's across from me down in Southern Indiana, the national team coach. How's it going, buddy?
Good, Spiker. How are you?
Good, man. Good. I want to get the 411 on the national team. I want to know what went on down there. From me being on Twitter and Dave being on Twitter, it seemed like a really good experience. But before we talk about that, what are you guys working on down in Southern Indiana? Where are you at in your facility schedule? What's it looking like down there?
Yeah, so some of the teams are finishing up some fall ball. Some teams are playing some fall ball tournaments, from the youth, and a couple of the high school teams are still playing, maybe one or two tournaments left. Some have kind of went ahead and shut it down due to maybe multi-sport athletes or just, an overall long summer. And then one of the things that we're going to do this year in Southern Indiana is the 7 high school teams that we have, we're going to try to make a day every Sunday and bring the kids in and practice together, which is going to be, utilizing all the resources, getting different eyes, our 15U coaches up to our 17U coaches with some of the experience that they have, maybe even outside trainers, maybe even some outside speakers that could come in there on some Sundays and, be able to really teach it the Tiger way, our way down there. We really think that's going to be really beneficial. It's kind of the first time we've done it. We've always done, the winter workouts, and it's always been really successful. So we're really just going to say, all right, we're going to expand this and take it to, some of the practices, from the time that we quit playing until, we lose all these guys to high school baseball. And we really think that's going to be something good. So stay tuned. I'll let you know how it goes, but I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be really good.
Well, you've created a lot of FOMO around this national team with obviously Doug Wathen's tweets and then our little recaps of the stats. And then you saw the TikTok that I created. Well, it wasn't a TikTok, an Instagram post that I created. And you guys got on a really strong run down there at the WWBA for Perfect Game. Give us a little bit of a recap. What was your because you didn't go on the first one. I was on the first one. Give us a little bit of a recap. Also, you are the most winningest coach in the national team history. So,
well, hopefully that record doesn't last very long. But first of all, the Instagram, just real quick, my daughters really made a lot of fun of me for that. Asked me what it was. I said that didn't come from me. That was Spiker, but it was really good. It's pretty funny, but I really liked it as far as being able to acknowledge what some of the kids had done down there. And this is what this interview here is about, or our little talk today. But there's so much. There's so many good things that happen down there. Where to start? First of all, the facilities down there are gorgeous. First time I'd been to Fort Myers to play. We were able to play at 3 different complexes in one high school. Zero complaints about anything that went on down there. A lot of coaches there, a lot of people watching the games, which is always good for these high school kids. It was, that I guess that's the first part. And then if we just start talking about the performances and the relationships that were built down there, I feel like that's why we do it. So I'm super happy of how it all came together for that. Also, real quick, Doug, not a former, not very involved on the Twitter scene, really stepped up, did a really good job down there. I was really happy with Doug and what he did down there, and I hope everybody else was, for him getting those tweets out and keeping everybody updated in their different areas of how all the boys were doing.
It helps because the players are going to get seen from the college coaches that are down there, but more importantly, it creates that brand awareness of those players. And then when someone's able to take the reins and tweet out those videos, that's massively important. Talk a little bit about the competition. It's hard to really express the competition that was down there, but try to put into words the guy, like the type of level that was being played.
Well, I mean, it was incredible, and I mean, I'll go backwards even from the last game. You know, we were lucky enough to do well enough to get into the tournament portion, and the team that knocked us out of the tournament actually finished in the Final Four. They had 8 D1 commits, and none of them were pitchers. So pitching to that lineup was incredible, and I mean, you know, their 7, 8, 9 hitters were, you know, 6'2", 6'3", anywhere from 185 to 210. I mean, just absolute dudes. And the pitchers that threw were really good. You know, so it was, and that was just the last game. And then if you look around and seen some of the other guys down there, it was, you know, looking at a lot of different rosters and seeing so many kids committed to big Power 5 schools, and watching some of the games before our games and maybe after our games, and following everything on the Perfect Game site to see, you know, these powerhouses just slugging it out with each other, and seeing what the stats were getting posted from some of the pitchers and at the other teams. And then, you know, of course, feeling really good about the group that we had down there, putting up good numbers and you know, having sometimes more runs than the other team, and you know, just hanging with everybody that was down there that we got matched against, and we got matched against some really, really good teams. So very happy with our performance with the national team. But overall talent, I mean, 212 teams, you know, absolutely you're going to run into some dudes, but at the end of the year like that, you know, they're sending squads down there. You know, Florida's not always the easiest place to get to, so that's an event that's marked on people's calendars, and people are going down there. And even when you talk about the college guys that are going down there, it was very surprising to see where some of the schools were from. You know, because it's not like they drove down the block to come see these guys. You know, they were flying in to see some of this talent too. So I think, if nothing else, that explains the level of talent that is down there, because a lot of these guys are committed, and they're down there trying to find the ones that are not. So just full of talent.
Yeah. So everyone that is not on the Inside Skinny, this was a 17U event, so that does give some promising remarks to a lot of those players that were down there. They were able to get seen, especially if you were uncommitted, and then the committed players are down there just to, my assumption is to make sure that they're still keeping up their skills, they're playing top competition, but also increasing their brand name, because you never know if they could be a draft guy. So if you're getting seen by more college coaches, it ends up trickling into the professional scouts, and they have potentially to boost up their draft stock for the upcoming draft. Now I want to talk about the players. We had some.
We're down there, Spiker. I did run across a Mets guy and a Diamondback guy down there that I had some conversation with. So to your point, the pro guys are down there taking a look as well.
The top performers, just looking at the stats, and then you can confirm on this, DJ, but I want to give these guys some shout outs because they showed up and they showed out. Thatcher Dietz batted .667, had extra base hit, 5 hits, 2 runs, and 7 total bases. Dane had a really good performance, even though he only played a short time, but he showed out really well, batting .500. Also, Letson just lit up against the Banditos with an unbelievable performance. It was one of those things where I was following it like I would follow a professional baseball game, where I was trying to see, okay, well, how many strikeouts does this guy have? What's his velo at? It was just a very impressive performance. If you guys want to see video of that, you can go on to our Twitter account, our national recruiting account, which is @RecruitTigers. We have a number of videos up from the event, but also from Letson's performance. So go ahead, deep dive into those guys, and some guys that I probably did not mention. Would love to get some feedback from you.
Yeah, so Thatcher Dietz, I got to meet him when we got down there. Catcher. Looks the part, everything. I mean, the kid was an absolute stud. I mean, a great kid. Obviously, you went through some of his stats offensively, but it went more than that, right? It went some leadership in the dugout. His smile, his attitude, everything that he did. But he also, he receives the ball really well, and he throws the ball really well. So some of the stats you don't get to see. I mean, this kid is a dude. I mean, they are very fortunate to have him there in Ohio. I mean, the kid can play. Probably, not taking anything away because, maybe he had just a really good weekend. But, I mean, he turned my head as much as anybody, offensively, defensively, overall as a player down there. I mean, he is really good.
That's a good point because it only takes one weekend to really impress somebody, and that one impression could last forever. So being able to get those opportunities and putting a positive twist on it, it could be one of those things that catapults you. So that was literally the first guy that you mentioned when we were talking on the phone. So I wanted to make sure that he was up there on the list. Talk about Dane. I know he's your son. I know you don't really want to deep dive on what happened, but he is a guy that is a under 6'7" runner, right? He's under 6'7".
Yeah. Yeah.
So being an outfielder, being able to run under 6'7", that's that says a lot. So batting 500, how did he do?
Yeah. So in the first game, we played a team out of Maryland, and we didn't have a hit through the first couple innings, and he got up there and he actually laid down a bunt to get the offense going. Had a bunt single. We ended up scoring a run or two there in that inning. Kind of got us going, and then came up later and in a bat, bases loaded. I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 outs, and hit a real shot down the line, hit a double, cleared the bases, kind of opened the game up, gave us a 4 or 5 run lead there. Huge moment in that game that gave us a lead, midway through the game, so it made us feel real good. So he was definitely off to a good start, and then he got caught in a rundown, a pickle that seemed to last forever, which I guess going back to talking about the speed, he was able to kind of keep going back and forth, but tweaked something in his leg, tried to gut some of it out. We tried to play him in the next game, and he was he was a little tender, and it was tough, and he's a guy playing in the outfield and wants to run and be able to help you, and it was unfortunate that he couldn't keep going, and I think we missed him offensively because he was doing really well. But overall, same thing, big hit, one of the main reasons why we won that first game, and but I was real proud of him hanging in there, getting behind the guys, doing a good job in the dugout, and doing the things that you're supposed to do as a teammate on an event like this. So Dane did really well down there. Was unfortunate. I think someone was asking about him going into our third game, and I was like, he's not going to get to play today. So, some of those things are
that's for sure.
Yeah. But unfortunate, but people are looking, and he did well when he was there. So,
talk about Letson's performance against the Banditos. Kind of do a little bit of a deep dive. For everyone, he pitched 6 innings, only gave up 4 hits, and had 13 strikeouts. Putting up those numbers, and his opponents only batted 182. So putting up those numbers in a big event like that on an elimination game too, is very impressed. very impressive.
On our team here in Southern Indiana, so I get to see him a lot. But also, he's a local high school kid, plays for a big school, Floyd Central, in the area. So I was fortunate enough to get to see him throw in high school 4 or 5 games this year as well, and pitching some big games in their sectional and postseason runs and different things like that. And he had an incredible year this year. But leading up to this, I still tell people that I think that was the best that I ever saw him pitch was actually down there in Fort Myers. One is his fastball was very live, moving. As you mentioned, some of the stats, generated a lot of swings and misses with both the fastball and the breaking ball. Had them really off balance.
Which is what you want to see.
They were a very aggressive team. He was in and around the zone, and he was just throwing stuff they couldn't touch. But arguably the best pitching performance I saw him this whole entire year. And he had a lot of good ones. So that says a lot about him. But same thing. He came down there, to pitch that game, and he was there, to pitch that game, and leader in the dugout. He's a fiery guy, and the people loved him. And it was actually even fun having the 4 or 5 guys subs in the dugout and cheering him on, a kid that they've never seen before. And they're like, he's gonna strike this guy out, like he bring the heat, blow by,
Yep.
and then he would. And so but that was a very, very good team. So it was a performance that we needed down there, and he stepped up to the challenge for sure.
Is there anyone out there that obviously from a stat standpoint, there's some things that we can't see with only playing 4 games. It's hard to really get a good picture of players sometimes. Is there anyone that really impressed you from a positional or pitching standpoint that the stats have not really clearly stated? Because again, I only can see so much from Twitter videos, as well as just looking at the stats that Perfect Game has provided me that I'm looking at right now.
Well, we can talk more about just overall how the kids came together and did all that stuff, but a couple to the question that you asked, and I want to give credit to all the pitchers. They were really good, and I'll come back to them as well. Sam Shackelford, he had a couple big stolen bases and scoring some runs. And just the way he overall plays the game. He did hit right close to 300, but his overall presence on the bases and leadership, he actually played several positions due to, like an injury that we had and different things. So we kind of moved him around a lot. But offensively, he's a weapon, and like I said, his stats were okay. They were very respectable, but I really liked him a lot. Hickey out there did a real good job in the outfield. And he actually in the second game, help me out who we played.
So first game you guys played Elite Baseball from Maryland. Second game you played against the MVP Beast 2023. Third game you played Banditos, which was an elimination game, and you ended up getting over the top. And then Power Baseball 2023 Platinum was your fourth game, which was first game of bracket play, which they ended up going on into the Final Four, correct?
Yes, that's correct. The Beast was a really good team, and I remember Hickey started off an inning. I think it was a tie ball game at the time. Hickey started off an inning. I want to say it was the fourth. Made his way over to third. And when I told him, I'm like, you're about ready to, when you score here, let's have some emotion. Let's get these guys going. Someone got a big hit. I think actually it was a ground out. Someone grounded out, but Hickey scored, knew that we took the lead late in the game, showed a lot of fire. And then we were able to put 1 or 2 more runs up. And that type of leadership, I've seen so much from all these guys. I say leadership, but I feel like they all just kind of bonded, and they all, took ownership of that being their team. That was their team.
That was the first thing that when Pellegrin came back and Shackelford came back, that's the first thing that they said was right away was like, I hope we get another shot at this thing. Like it was awesome. Like the team bonded really well, which is hard. Which is hard, and I think that's what makes our organization unique is that it's not a group of like we're just going to call random people that are rated in Perfect Game, and then we're just going to create this super team. This is Tigers super team. This is the best group that we can have. The guys that submitted into the application for this event, and we try to create the best team that we possibly can. And then being able to say, "Oh, you're a Tiger, I'm a Tiger." I think there's a lot to be said with that,
Well, no doubt, and at the end of it, and afterwards, and over the last couple of weeks, I've actually talked to some of these guys, which has been really cool. They mentioned some of those same things, and a lot of it too. When some of the guys maybe that struggled, because it was tough. Sam sent us a message, all of us, and was like. Seeing 90 was a little bit different, seeing, these guys was a little bit different. But, one of the things that he walked out of there, he says he knows he can compete. But, some of these other guys were seeing this also for the first time. And so, some of it was a struggle. But the thing was is no one got down. Like I never really looked in the dugout. I didn't have to go into anybody and say, it's going to be okay. There wasn't any of that. I was, get them the next time. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. And the team kind of did a really good job with, living in that moment and not worried about it being an eye type of game. And it very well, could be in the fact, you're coming from all the different ways. Like, Sam doesn't know, Dane anything, right? They're not even on the same team, but, they still seem to, bond and go through and play the game the way it's supposed to be played and, shake it off and try to get them the next time.
And it could be because they wanted to represent their city because they're representing all those players that are back in that city. And they're like, hey, this is the type of baseball that we play.
And everybody did phenomenal at that. That's couldn't speak enough about it. I do want to talk before we get off of here, though. We talked about some stats and some numbers, and some of your guys as well. Bishop hit a personal record for his fastball velocity, which I think they had him at 91, and almost all the other pitchers. The only one I wasn't positive about was West. And where exactly he was before, maybe that who he also pitched really well. But Pellegrin, Seabold, Watson, and Bingham all actually had personal best fastballs down there as well. So it also lets these guys were ready for the moment. Like it was, it was the nervous energy that they needed, along with Bishop and. I think
so. That pitching staff stepped up. They were ready.
Unbelievable. Even in the last game we got beat, and I told you about the D1 guys. Bingham and Seabolt and some of those guys. Didn't give up very many earned runs in that game. We made a couple mistakes in the early innings and got down a little bit, but I think we lost by 4 or 5. I can't remember exactly what the final score was there. But those guys went up against those dudes and, they challenged them too. Like it wasn't, they weren't sitting there trying to throw breaking balls and get away with it all the time and trying to get cute. They went out and pitched their game and, trusted the defense behind them. And, overall pitching staff was really good. 4 games, it looks like our ERA was right at 2. You can't beat that. We had 35 strikeouts to 16 walks, maybe a little high on the walks, but a lot of times when you're amped up a little bit, you're going to get some of the walks. 24 innings pitched, 21 hits given up. We only gave up 7 earned runs in 4 games against those powerhouses.
Well, when you have guys that are getting on base, I'm looking at the stats right now. Every single dude was getting on base. there wasn't many guys that were not getting on base. So it seemed like there was just a huge group effort, even though there was a couple of standouts. Obviously, every tournament there's going to be a couple of standouts, which gives you more of a motivation to be that guy next time. But being able to provide some type of positive effect on the team, that's how you end up going deep into tournaments.
Yeah, and these guys performed, and yeah, and I mean, I don't want to not say anybody's names. I mean, I want to make sure when this gets out on Twitter, I'm going to tag all the guys in there and, make sure they take a look at this because they really did come together and everybody was valuable, with a lot of things they did, whether it was base running, leadership. But gosh, there was a couple young kids, some of the 24 class they got in there, man, they weren't intimidated at all. They might have, not perform like they wanted to offensively or something, but they went out and they played their position and they were leaders, and it was really good.
Well, that's a really good point too, because I always go back to my recruiting. I didn't get recruited on having a 3 for 4 day. I got recruited on a 0 for 4 day where I hit a pop fly and I beat it out to second base before the guy caught it. And the Cleveland Indians scout that saw that, he's like, that's exactly what I wanted to see, because I know what type of player you are from all the rumors, but I wanted to see if you were able to hustle and get out of the box and what type of speed, what type of power you have. And I showed all of that in just that one little play. So these guys that are kind of looking back and be like, man, I wish I was the standout guy. Hey, you never know. You might have been the guy that ended up getting his name circled 3 or 4 times in red marker on that roster.
No, that's exactly right. And like I said, these are the 24 guys that, whether we're able to do this again this year, those guys are going to go into it next year and be like, hey, look, this was what was successful. This is how we're going to lead this team. Maybe it doesn't take a lot of hits, but it takes an attitude. There's no doubt it takes the right attitude and teamwork and getting behind each other that will help you. And same thing, man, the Banditos and the Beasts were really good, and then the team from Maryland was good as well. We just were able to, get a big hit there, but the other 2 games were really close against some really good teams, and I think it says a lot when you go down there and you're able to take a bunch of strangers for, I guess is the best way to say it, and play and actually win a close game. I think that's hard to do. I mean, I think, you trust in a guy behind you that lives 300, 400 miles from you. You don't know what they're going to do. And they came in there and, a funny story, Thatcher one time, I gave him, I wanted him to steal, and I wanted him to steal in this situation. And he comes back afterwards and he goes, I don't really run, coach. And I'm like, no, it was a situation. It was good. It's like, that's why we do the things we did. Hey, I have a little ball player right now that just woke up and is crying a little bit. Let me grab him real quick.
No worries.
Give me half a break.
No worries.
All right. Sorry, we got a little guy that just woke up from a nap. So if
we have a cameo experience. We have a cameo appearance.
This is Deacon DeWees. So if this goes, if he gets too upset, we'll just cut this a little short. Oh
yeah, for sure. Yeah, he just wants to be on the next national team, man.
He's ready. 2U national elite team next year. Under 2.
Well, let's kind of go through this a little. Last question I had was, what's the margin of error during the tournament? Like, what can you get away with a lot of mistakes? Or what can you get away with in those type of events? Because you know how playoff baseball is, where if a pitcher doesn't, we see it right now, if a pitcher doesn't make the right pitch, and then it's 3-2 count, and then it's a home run, and now they take over, it ends up going in the south real quick.
I mean, it's a good question, and I mean, it varies. Baseball is such a great game and such a weird game all at the same time. The example would be the Banditos game. We had to make a pitching change in the last inning, and Lindell comes in and he throws great, gets the first 2 guys out. The next 2 batters hit very, very slow roller, great pitches, Both batters get sawed off. Really tough plays for the shortstop that could have. I mean, he played him as good as he could have, but man, one half a step quicker, one throw just a little bit harder, and or if it goes a different direction, maybe we get that out and we close that game out. But the pitcher made two great pitches, and so they get two runners on, and then we come up and this kid hits one of the farthest balls it seems like I ever saw. That ball got hit. I was like, there's no chance it's staying in the ballpark. I mean, hits, the top 3 feet of the fence, and we were able to hold him at third, and then we were able to get the last out. We got out of there with a tie, which was still good, helped us win the bracket. But, I mean, you talk about that. The pitcher made two great pitches against two different batters to be able to close the game out, but we just missed it by just a little bit, right? And then we end up on that tie, so that margin of error was a little different. And the thing was the same thing. We end up winning that bracket because of the other games that we played against the same guys, but we gave up less runs to be able to let us win that bracket. So it was like we could have won that game, but then again, another 2 foot or wind direction blowing the right way, that ball's out, and we actually lose that game. And then also too, there's so many, I don't want to say it's the luck of the draw, but sometimes how it works. I mean, you get down there and you get in the wrong pool, and it's really tough to win. Like, there was guys that we know from our area and other people that were down there. Some of the guys made the tournaments and some of the guys didn't. Some of the guys had a tough outing down there, and we know they're really good teams. And so, just because a team, and that's the thing, for all future national team guys, if you don't make the tournament, and even if you go 0-3, but you're very respectable down there, it's a challenge. These teams are good. Who you go up against, who you play. It's amazing, some of the guys that have success year after year.
Definitely.
Like you mentioned before, but we're different, right? We're taking our homegrown guys and doing that, and very proud of that. And I'm not knocking how the other guys do it, but that is something. Some of our teams run a little bit different, but some of the different guys or teams went down there and they maybe lost a game. I mean, one of the teams that we know, local, really good, respected team, got beat one game, and they got beat. It was like 9-4, but the fact they gave up those 9 runs, actually ended up knocking them out for the chance to be able to go. And now I don't know what happened there. I don't know if it was errors or the teams hit it or what exactly went on inside the game. But to your question, yes, the margin could be, but then again, maybe in a game that you're on fire or nobody's going to hit your pitcher or whatever it might be. I mean, in the Banditos game, to even talk about it, I think we had less hits than they did in that game. So as well as Bishop pitched, we maximized our run output in that game. Now, granted, they had 3 hits in the last inning when 2 of them were those little flares, but just to kind of give you an idea that the margin that you talk about is, yes, it could be the difference, and yes, sometimes you can overcome that stuff. So,
well, this has been an awesome conversation. Thank you for coming on and talking about it. To all those guys that made the national team, that's a huge deal. And you never know, you might have made a positive experience, a positive impression on a scout, even though it could have been you just running out to your position or beating out a ground ball, or any of that. And then to those guys that performed really well, congrats. And I'm looking forward to the next event. I think it's going to be fun. I think obviously we're going to have more guys apply, even though we had a lot this time. I think there's going to be more guys that apply because that FOMO came in, because you want to be around that competition and get recruited. So.
And once again, I sent them guys a message. I can't thank the players and the parents and over in the Tigers in general for putting this together and letting these guys come. I mean, one of the things that I told them, and then I hope that everybody that ponders whether they want to do this in the future. The way that I see it, just a quick story. The very last game that we had, we talked about those D1 guys. Their third baseman for that power team is like 5th ranked in the country in the 2023 class. Our pitchers actually held him to 0 for 4 that game. And the only thing that I have to say about that is that guy might be a guy you see playing on TV at some point in time. And I don't think that our pitchers will ever be able to forget and be able to tell the story about who they played against. Like these events, they can tell stories about who they competed against, but they also might be able to tell stories about maybe the guys on their team. Maybe they see each other in college at the next level playing against each other, and they remembered, playing on that national team together. And I hope they take that experience and remember it forever. We always talk about when it comes to travel ball with the Tigers, it's not always the wins and losses. It's how you get developed and how you come up and the experiences that you are going to remember. And I got to say, for me, I would think for Dane, my son, and the guys that I coach, this is going to be one that you remember, no matter what you end up doing in your baseball future. But this was a really good event. Yes, the guys are on me. They want to run it back before it goes. So this is something that are interested. And as you mentioned before, I think there's a lot of guys from the different area that followed the games, followed Twitter, followed things like that have some of the same interests now and kind of, I don't want to say regret, but maybe they were playing football or soccer or just couldn't make that event, that were kind of like, man, I want to do that next time. So we've gotten bigger from last year to this year on the interest, and I mean, I definitely don't want to be a part of having to choose as it continues to grow.
It's tough. It's tough,
these guys.
And I wouldn't have any other way, because again, that means that the program's growing, and then when those guys make that team, it's not to say that this team, like getting on this team, wasn't valuable, but it becomes harder, so it becomes more valuable. So just think about that, guys, when you apply, is that if you get chosen, we're trying to pick the best players possible for that specific event, and we're going to try to provide as many opportunities and try to register on these national event type level events where we have to grab the best of the best, and just keep applying. If you don't make one team, keep applying and trying to get back in, and hopefully grow your skills, and then hopefully you'll be picked. So DJ, thanks again. I really appreciate it. This has been awesome. I know I'm probably going to talk to you in the next 24 hours anyways. So
yeah, let's do it.
And thank you for the cameo appearance. I really appreciate that as well. All right, guys, we will catch you later. See ya.
Thanks, Biker.